Satan also became a placeholder for anything people didn't like. Music, sex, dancing, tattoos, science, questions, all of it could be labeled satanic. You don't need to understand it if you've already decided it's evil. You don't have to debate it if it's coming from the devil. This shortcut thinking creates easy enemies and shallow solutions. It makes the world small, divided, and fearful. Ironically, the more you look at how Satan has been used, the more you realize he was never about truth. He was about usefulness. A character shaped by the needs of the system. Not a real being, but a reflection of the anxieties of those in charge. If your God is all good, all-powerful, and still lets bad things happen, you have a problem. Satan solves that. If people are asking hard questions, Satan distracts them. If someone is challenging the status quo, Satan silences them. He's the perfect scapegoat because he's invisible and can be blamed for anything. And it worked. For a very long time. But the cracks are showing. People are starting to question not just Satan, but the whole system that needed him. If a religion needs an all-powerful evil enemy to survive, what does that say about its foundation? If you need to scare people into staying, how strong is the belief, really? If your moral compass depends on threats of eternal punishment, how deep is the morality? The invention of Satan tells us more about human psychology than it does about the cosmos. It tells us how fear can be manufactured, how myths can evolve into control systems, how symbols can be weaponized, and how people can be taught to distrust themselves, their thoughts, their desires, just to fit into a mold designed by someone else. Some people try to argue that even if Satan isn't real, the idea of evil is. But that only proves how deeply the myth has embedded itself. Evil exists, yes. But it doesn't need a name, a face, or a pitchfork. It doesn't need flames or horns. It shows up in human actions, in cruelty, in indifference, in manipulation. And it can be fought, not with rituals or prayers, but with reason, with empathy, with understanding. You don't need to believe in Satan to stand against evil. In fact, letting go of that story might make you better at it. The more you study the origins of Satan, the more clearly you see how much of religion is built on metaphor mistaken for reality. And how often those metaphors were used to protect power, not people. Satan wasn't discovered. He was created, shaped like clay to fit every crack that logic couldn't fill. And maybe that's the real danger, not in the devil himself, but in how quickly we accept made-up enemies when they make life easier to explain, when they give us someone to blame, when they take responsibility off our shoulders and hand it to a myth. Because when you stop believing in Satan, you don't just lose a villain. You start to see where the real problems come from. And they're not hiding underground. They're right here,